Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after what I thought was a fabulous game against the Dallas Stars. Now, I know that Jets fans aren't going to like the outcome of this, and I talked to Kenny a little bit before the start of this, but I honestly don't know how he feels about this game. We could be entirely on polar opposites to the sides of this here, but you will have heard me talk in the past, and I know there was a lot of people the last time that the Jets played the Dallas Stars who said, the Jets deserved a better fate, which I absolutely did not agree with. And to a degree, I kind of am not a real big fan of this team deserved a better fate argument. After the last game they played the Dallas Stars, Dave Lowry said the Jets deserved a better fate. Tonight, he said the same thing, and I completely and utterly agree with him. I thought the Jets, for the vast majority of that night, were the better of the two teams, it was the team that was taking the play to the Dallas Stars. Their forecheck was absolutely tenacious. They were all over them. They contested every puck. There was no easy ice. Dubois and Connor's line was absolutely dogged. They were showing off their skill. They were showing off their tenacity, but they were taking the puck hard to the net and were dangerous all night. I thought they were phenomenal. It comes down to a couple plays that really, the one criticism that I have so often about the Winnipeg Jets is they get into a game, they do not they're not the better of the two teams. They use their timely goal scoring or their opportunistic goal scoring to get back into a game and win that game. I don't think it's a sustainable model. Well, tonight, that was the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars were getting beat up all over the ice and just seemed to put the puck in at the right time every single turn. This was a real role reversal here. I don't mind the role reversal. I don't mind it because, the Jets, my whole take on the Jets have room for one loss a week. Well, because they didn't lose here, that's a half loss. So they've got 8.5 losses left in them in the season. So one, that's an important distinction to make. But two, I know we were talking about the Jets having 2 straight wins. Now they've got points in 3 straight games, but those 2 straight wins came against the last place team in the NHL, and then the second last place team in the NHL. But to me, the game that they played against the Dallas Stars tonight was the right game. If they carry that game going forward, I'm not going to say I like their chances because their chances are terrible right now. If you take a look at where they are, there's almost no room for error, and that has to be factored into this tonight. There was some error, and they end up, on the wrong side of this ultimately. But from what I'm seeing from the Jets in that game is at least a blueprint executed that if they go out and play that kind of game against good teams, if they play that game against the New York Rangers on Sunday, they're going to give themselves a chance. I'm not saying it's going to turn out, but they will give themselves a chance. I just got to say, I liked it. I like the blueprint. And the one thing about it that I really think that I may have liked more than anything else is using Adam Lowry the way that he's been playing, having Andrew Kopp on that line, who looked dangerous for a second straight game since returning from injury, but adding Nick Ehlers to that line, I thought that line was dangerous all night. I thought that was the second most dangerous line for the Jets. I thought that the Jets' second line, if you want to call it that, Dubois, Svechnikov, and Connor, were the most dangerous line out there tonight. The fourth line did their, one of the passing plays that I was most impressed with was a near goal by Dominic Toninato. And then, I think the Jets, top line of Scheifele and Stastny and Wheeler, showed up at Stastny anyways, and Wheeler showed up at the right time. This is what this team looks like when it can have depth. And that is the one thing that I think has driven Jets fans nuts for a really long time is you have the roster to employ depth, and depth just does not get employed. How important is Evgeny Svechnikov look on that second line and what he does, the chain effect that he makes down the lineup? Absolutely phenomenal. I've gone to the buffet for too long. It's time to bring Ken in here. I'm fascinated to see what he has to say about this whole thing. So let's not wait anymore. The man with the best music in the business, here comes Kenny. Kenny, my friend, every time I see you, you've got a better and better tan, whereas my nose just keeps getting redder because I'm trying to fight off the last bit of this cold here. But it's great to see you, my friend. Let's get right into it, right off the bat, because I'm fascinated to see what you saw in that game. I saw a lot of hope if I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan. I know a lot of people may not agree with that. That's what I saw. What did you see?
Jets played after the first period. The Jets played extremely well, but the problem, Sean, is that they've waited a little bit too long in this ride to get into overdrive. I would say that's what I see. Good news, Mark Auld. Leon has shined up the T-bird behind me. He was a little disappointed. I know you probably couldn't see it on the camera work, but he's got it buffed up and shined up for the backdrop here in Maricopa tonight. Jets, they held them. The majority of the play over the final 40 minutes is how I would say. Slightly outchanced in the high dangers in the first period. I would also say that I didn't like the Jets' power play at all in the first period, which is part of the reason they kind of got themselves a little bit behind the eight. I mean, again, not in terms of falling way behind, but I mean, the power play just got nothing going for them at a time when they really could have given themselves a boost. And then, surprise, surprise, Dallas got the next 3 power plays. So overall, over the last 40 minutes, the Jets did a very good job in a lot of areas. They got themselves going. They got themselves the lead, but they couldn't hold the lead. And that's been a problem for the Jets this year, Sean, at times. They have rallied for being in the opposite position, but that's a game they have to lock down. They needed 2 clean points in this game. I do agree it was a point well earned, but I also agree with Matt there. Again, it's important to remember that while the Jets were very close to their optimal lineup, with maybe the exception of Cole Perfetti, the Stars were missing 2, their best defensemen, and I know Seguin hasn't had a great year, but he's great against the Jets. So it's interesting, right? I mean, if the Jets played like that the majority of the time down the stretch, they'll have a chance. But the problem is that they failed to close the gap against one of the teams they're chasing. Now, the more interesting part is now suddenly Dallas is putting the heat on teams like Minnesota and Nashville. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, but the problem for the Jets is a team like Vegas is now in a dogfight for the final playoff spot. And we thought that they were one of the guaranteed teams in the Pacific. And I would still put them down as a lead pipe lock. But right now they're in a chase position, which is very strange. And I mean, again, I know folks are up in arms here, and what I'm going to say quickly here, this was not a banner night for Connor Hellebuyck. Most of the chances against were grade A chances, but to be dumping on Hellebuyck, but this was a night, Sean, we've talked about this a lot. This was a night where Connor Hellebuyck was the second best goalie on the ice. I'm not pointing a finger at him, but Braden Holtby played an exceptional game. The backup goalie for the Dallas Stars played an exceptional game. I'm not blaming Hellebuyck at all, but he gave up 4 goals. And I mean, again, a lot of those are breakaways. And look at all the time Jason Robertson has. Incredible job by Robertson in this hockey game. 3 goals. And he made the biggest play of the night on the tying goal, the uncalled cross-check.
Yes.
Right? So yes. Jason Robertson's fingerprints are all over this game. A couple things, too. I mean, I know I'm answering on the buffet because we're doing a little TV treat there. You got a little snack going. I'll just keep going for a little while longer. Mm-hmm. Comrie's been very good, but I mean, in a game that the Jets had to win, you play your number one. I mean, come on, that's what you do. But a quick thing here, and again, this is not about finger pointing, and this is not about one player, but it was another tough night for Neil Pionk. Right? I mean, and not just because it's a great save by Holtby. Some people thought he missed the net. He got enough of the blocker to shield it to go around the bend. But I did not like the drop pass to Nikolai Ehlers. And of course, it's terrible luck for Neil Pionk that Ehlers blows a tire in that situation, Sean. But just like we got on Ville Heinola for situational awareness, if you're in the final minute of a period, there's no reason to have a drop pass in that scenario, right? Don't you agree?
I agree 100%. Yeah, it was. I was surprised that people were We're upset with Neil Pionk. I don't have any problem with Neil Pionk's play on in that situation.
Oh,
He's getting the puck to a guy who had plenty of time. He's got a lot of speed. It's a reset. What he's trying to do is put it to a guy that even if he can't save it inside the zone, he can save possession, and they can reload and do what they need to do. That's the new NHL. I mean, guys will give up the blue line if it means holding on to it and getting a change and keeping possession. I didn't overly have a problem with it. I think that's on that play. I hold Nick Ehlers to account in that situation. I think instead of trying to fish it out, he just needs to be sure with it, right? Like he's trying to save a play there rather than. Anyways, go on.
One just quick one. I just don't like, and I understand he shielded himself, but Pionk took himself out of the play. I don't mind the drop pass there, but he needs to be on the inside position. The way it worked
Good
out,
point.
he trails himself towards the boards, which creates the odd man rush, right? So it just seemed like he got kind of spun around. It wasn't a bad play. It just was a bad result. And like I said, I mean, at all levels of hockey, the danger zone is within 5 to 10 feet of the blue line in both sides, right? Offensive zone and the defensive zone. It led directly and fed the transition game and led to a goal. So that to me is a play that could be avoided. And like I said, it's bad luck that Ehlers fell down. But again, I think that was a play that was an avoidable goal. Really nice play by Harley to get it over to Robertson. And nice job going through the 5-hole. And again, the quick thing about Hellebuck, like those 5-hole goals, it's easy in slow motion to think, oh, well, you got to close the pads. Well, Jason Robertson has 26 goals, okay? Like, this is a bona fide goal scorer who just scored his first NHL hat trick. How about the first goal? Again, lots of stuff went wrong on that play. Brendan Dillon kind of tossed a bit of a grenade out there. Pavelski gets it back to the point. And then the Jets kind of got lost in coverage. Like Dillon kind of got, he went with Pavelski because that's who we turned the puck over to, which made sense. Pionk is over on the other side. And then Scheifele's got to fill, right? I mean, if Scheifele knocks the puck down completely like he was in position to do, we're not even talking about Scheifele. But because it gets off his stick and ends up with Robertson, and then by the time Mark turns around and realizes there's nobody behind him, now Robertson is undressed Hellebuck because there's no one between him and the net. So, interesting play there again. I mean, that it could have been avoided. I think that's an avoidable play. But, I mean, those things, it's happened to the Jets a few too many times for it to be a coincidence. But again, I think that was just a couple of things where I wouldn't even call them always mistakes, but things that they're doing are ending up being glaring. And it ends up in the back of the net, and then they're left saying, you know, yeah, we had a chance and we could have been better. But overall, I mean, the Jets played very well in a lot of areas, but their errors seem to be ending up in the back of the net with a little bit more regularity. So that's why they're in a position where they're going to have to leapfrog 4 teams. So anyways, we'll continue to dive and dig into it. But I'm with you 100% on like Svechnikov, another excellent job in the retrieval department, getting to the blue paint on the Kyle Connor tying goal. I mean, that's the thing, right? So the Jets were behind after 2 periods, found a way to score early, and then get the lead. I mean, on an exceptional pass by Blake Wheeler, and what a finish by Paul Stastny. I mean, it was a great play by Wheeler to get it in front, but Stastny completely has to contort his body in order to get a full wood on it, even though he's not covered, right? That's not an easy goal to score. Really great pass, great vision, and a nice play by Dylan DeMello to get the puck behind the net to Wheeler. One other thing, I know a lot of people are up in arms about the overtime play. I know a lot of people are wondering, oh, well, how come Blake Wheeler isn't able to catch Jason Robertson? I went back and looked a couple times, Sean. On the play, Wheeler is opening up because he's not sure if Pionk is going to shoot or pass it over to him for a one-timer. So it's not Wheeler's responsibility to get back, I don't think. But what I saw out of the corner of my eye, this is how Wheeler views the play, Sean. He sees Jamie Benn behind him, so he thinks he has his man covered. And all of a sudden he looks to his left, and Robertson is shot out of a cannon. And by then, there's no chance Wheeler or anyone else is going to catch him at the end of his shift. So I don't think that was a lack of effort by Wheeler on any stretch. I don't think it was a lack of awareness. I think that he thought he had his man in the vicinity, and that was Jamie Benn. And Jamie Benn was not going to blow by Wheeler, but Robertson came out of the side, and he was past Scheifele, he was past Pionk, and obviously he was past Wheeler, and it was turn out the lights, the party's over.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looked like the Jets got Winnipeg jetted. I mean, I think they got a little focused and they put up how many shots? I mean, it was in the high 30s.
Yeah.
Is that
No,
where
they
it
were in the
ended up?
40s. No,
They
in
were
the
in the
40s.
40s by the time it was all said and done. And I take a look at this game, and it just seemed like what you can do and what the Jets did for years. I mean, remember there was some kind of ridiculous sat out there for a while with the Jets when they were, I think the 2018-19 team, where they were like 8-0-1 in the games where they'd given up 40 shots or more, right? And that,
Right.
to me, I mean, what can happen in those situations, especially if you have a goalie going? And boy, oh boy, did the Dallas Stars have a goalie going tonight. You can get another team going and on their toes and pressing, and they get that close to a goal, and they get that close to another one. And then what you start doing is you just kind of get sucked in and drawn in towards them, everybody all at once. And then the one thing I'll give the Dallas Stars, and I was talking with Joey Slattery, Joey pointed this out. There was a couple of shifts there, especially the tying goal in the second period for the Jets when that second line got it. Like, I don't know if you remember that shift, but man, oh man, were the Dallas Stars casual. Like, just the Jets are all over them, and they had a couple chances to get rid of the puck, and they kind of looked like they were trying to do some kind of play with it and kept turning it over and turning it over. The Jets eventually ended up scoring. The one thing I'll say, and maybe it's because Sagan is out, maybe it's because, and like, let's be honest, Miro Heiskanen is one of those players that changed the entire game when he's out there.
For sure.
Right? You get him logging a whole bunch of ice time, and suddenly your team is getting clean exits out of your zone. It's an entirely different team. So there is something to be said. You touched on it in the chat room. Most definitely touched on it. This is a different team with the number one jet killer out there in Tyler Sagan, although, boy, Robertson is sure looking to pass him in that regard. But without Miro Heiskanen, it's a different story as well. But I just thought I thought there was not the intensity I would have expected from that Dallas Stars team. I'm not saying for a second that this is a night where the Jets were the better team because the other team didn't put in an effort. I thought the Jets' forecheck was just dogged and tenacious, and they just backed that Dallas Stars team into a corner over and over and over again. But maybe what I was looking at and seeing and thinking it was like kind of a lack of effort, maybe not a lack of effort, but definitely that they didn't. The Stars didn't seem to have any kind of urgency, but they are a really calm team, and that calmness you can see really came to the forefront in their plays tonight, where they kind of held up the shield as the Jets attacked over and over and over and over again. And it just did seem, to your point about the mistakes, it seemed that every time the Jets slipped a guy too far down the ice, the puck got turned over and it was an odd man rush. And that was clearly what happened when the Dallas Stars got numbers down ice this game. It ended up in the back of their net. And to your point about the Robertson cross check from behind with DeMello, why do you think that wasn't called?
Oh, the
crackdown
is
over.
over.
To do with the fact that the refs were so busy all night that they thought they'd let one go?
I think that because they called so many minors early on, and they were the cheapo special hooking and whatever else. Like, again, it wasn't a dirty game, but there were so many power plays in the first period and change. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean,
Rope Hintz gets a hooking call early in the game, and the replay shows he never on Blake Wheeler when Blake Wheeler.
I don't know. His foot, that they locked feet. That's why he fell down. That's what I saw.
Call.
I understand that. I agreed. I think they got the call wrong, but he was in a chase position, and I think because it's one of those things in football, either that gets called pass interference or incidental contact. But I mean, if a guy gets his foot in between yours, even if it's not a stick, it's still. To me, could have been tripping and not hooking. But again, the bigger miss was the obvious one. Esa Lindell hooks the hands of Adam Lowry on a clear-cut breakaway. That's a penalty. It's a penalty shot. Never mind a penalty, right? I mean, come on. Like that was a wake-up moment. I understand they were going to call interference, but they're barely even made contact. Suter barely makes contact with Lowry, but Lindell hooks him on the hands at a perfect time, prevents a shot from even being taken, and it's completely ignored. So, I mean, after you ignore that, then I guess, of course, you don't want to, make a call of that magnitude. Sean, not my bigger problem, but why is there no one on Denis Gurianov? Why does he have a clean shot from the point in that situation? Where's the coverage? Where's the coverage there?
Happening because Gurianov has all the time in the world to recognize that Jason Robertson's in front and is putting up the perfect screen and knows exactly where to put it. But I mean, Nick Robertson has all the time in the world to just stand in front of the goaltender and put in the perfect screen without any pressure.
Oh, for sure.
Clearly, he gets that because he knocks down DeMello. But you are right. It's a breakdown at that time of the game.
But still, I mean, again, should it have been called? Yes, of course. In a game where there's that many penalties, if there was supposed to be the standard and it wasn't supposed to just be for preseason in the first quarter, it's probably something that should have been called. Like you see DeMello, he's completely baffled. Like, how do you think I just banana peeled it and fell down? Like, what's happening here? But again, I mean, yeah, for sure. But I had another. Anyways, let's keep cruising.
Well, here I was trying to lead to that because remind me what the first penalty was of the game. Do you remember?
The first penalty was also kind of a very strange. The first one was Pavelski, the hooking on Morrissey. It was also kind of a weird play through the neutral zone, right? It was.
Yeah. So here's what I wondered. Now I didn't go back and look at these plays, but in the moment when Morrissey went down, I'd wondered if he was selling. Right? Like I'd wondered if because he comes behind the net and there's a little bit of a push and there's almost like a 2 strides and then a fall. So I wondered if even if it was like if he could have righted himself or fought through it. And I wondered if there was a bit of a sell. And then I wondered if on the Wheeler play there was a bit of a sell. And I'll tell you another one, Ken, where I wondered if there was a sell. And we've talked about this before. And it's brilliant. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois on that hooking call gets the stick around him. And what does Pierre-Luc Dubois do if you ever put your stick by him? He puts his big arms out like this, and he grabs it and pulls it towards his chest and then fights as though you're hooking away at him, right? So I was wondering if the refs in the third period had felt that the Jets had pulled sales jobs on them on a number of penalties earlier on in the game, and if that made it less likely. Because the one other thing, and I've looked at this play, and my original thought was that DeMello may have gone down a little bit too easy because it doesn't look like Jason Robertson obliterates him. But that said, when you're standing there and you're not expecting a push from behind, you go down. So I'm going to give DeMello the benefit of the doubt there. I'm just saying that I wonder if maybe the refs didn't give him the benefit of the doubt, and I do wonder if maybe they had felt that they lost control of the game in an unusual way. Not that the game was too rowdy, but that they'd called all these penalties and in retrospect had looked and been like, is this really like an 8-12 penalty game? What's happening here? And I do wonder if they felt that the players were taking advantage of their propensity to go to the whistle on that evening, and that they didn't go to the whistle in that moment because they felt that they'd fallen for some sales jobs earlier on in the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory. I had never thought of it during the game. To me, I just think it's simple. I mean, Dylan DeMello, like Jason Robertson is strong on his feet, but he's not a big guy. So if you're Dylan DeMello, you're not expecting to be cross-checked. It's not like they fronted each other and got into a battle for the space in front of the net. Robertson just flat out cross-checks him. So even if you're not a big guy, if you're not expecting to be cross-checked, of course it's going to look like you fell down easily, right? I mean, I didn't see it that way. And just one quick one, folks. Part of the reason showing off the car, yes, but I'm at my in-laws and, Stacy's sister's here, her best friend Kim is here. There's not really, it's not like I'm at home where I have, 2 levels where I can go on my own floor here. So I'm just trying to be a good guest. That's why I'm in the garage. I do appreciate all the jokes, and I know folks are enjoying the car. I was on with Hustler this afternoon. It was getting a little bit of love, but that's why I am in the garage. I have not been banished here. I'm not sleeping in the car.
People, I'm going to give you the real goods. Kenny has skipped too many family pick
Buffets
down there because he keeps sneaking away golfing, and he's sleeping in the garage tonight, and he deserves to. The guy, you can't keep him off the golf course, and there's responsibility when you're down.
Not true. Didn't play today. No time. No time.
Your sister-in-law and the best friend and the mother and father-in-law. You're supposed to be putting in time with them, not going out and bragging about the first 2 birdies of the season like we heard from you last time, Ken. So you've earned your spot in there.
Yeah.
You deserve it. Just take your medicine that the chat room is giving you.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the medicine. One other quick one here, we got lots of time here, but the 5-on-3. I mean, the Jets just too static on the. But here's the part, Sean, and we know this because power plays are cyclical. Like, we're going all crazy about the Jets' power play. They just went 4 for 6 2 days ago. So generally, when you go 4 for 6, you're not going 3 for 5 the next night, but it's one of those things where when a team gets that, you want it all the time, but it's just really not the way it works overall. But they had to be better. They needed to be quicker. I mean, their only good look was the Kyle Connor one-timer. I mean, they just didn't do a good enough job with the puck movement. And what happens? The second unit gets out there, they get a nice play to Stastny, it's a tie game, right? I mean, I didn't like the ice distribution. I know Dave Lowry thought it was more to do with zone time, but I think that on a night where Nikolai Ehlers was really flying, I thought they needed to get him out there. I mean, the goal that didn't count because it wasn't actually a goal. What about the zone entry on that play, right? What about the zone entry there, walking around, dancing, and gets it over to Kopp, and then Kopp rings the bar? Let's dig into Ehlers here. I mean, you were in the building.
Well,
to me,
before you go there, I have a theory on the Jets power play tonight. I'm a big believer. I know we talked about this on the last show. I don't think you agreed with me on this.
No, okay, so you saw adjustments.
I do think Marty St. Louis came in woefully unprepared to have his team handle the Jets power play. Like I mean, you can be a good power play team, but the Jets, those goals that they got, those final 4 goals of the game came from just like primo spots and setups, and didn't give the goalies much of a chance. It was way too easy. The seams were wide open. The passes were going everywhere. The Canadians played a terrible penalty kill on that night. And so what happens, Ken, in those situations where things come a little bit too easily one night? Like, this is what coaches worry about, right? When you get into a winning streak and you keep going and you get a little bit loose because the puck's going in for you, then all of a sudden when it gets hard, you're not prepared for it to be hard. That's what I thought happened tonight. I thought the Dallas Stars handled the penalty kill extremely well tonight. And if you take a look at the situation, it just feels like the Jets were used to being able to pass around. Like, there was a whole bunch of times I thought, and the chat room has already talked about the overpassing that the Jets do on the power play. There was a whole bunch of times that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, I thought, got caught searching for that seam from the one wing to the other side, right? Because they were moving it up top and over. And what they were trying to do, because there was the Stars were getting pressure up top, they thought that would open up that middle seam and they'd be able to fire it all the way across the ice, and it would be a one-timer, and that's how they were going to, that's how you feel like you have to beat a goalie like Holtby when he's playing the way he was tonight. But I just thought that the Jets wasted a whole bunch of time trying to find seams that were not there. Scheifele tried to pass it a couple times and hit skates in the process. So to me, they were trying to score the same goals that they scored against the Montreal Canadiens in the last game, and those goals weren't available. And they were only available last game because the Montreal Canadiens came with a bad plan on defending the Jets' power play. The Dallas Stars came with a good plan, and what they needed to do was get it to the net front and try and jam it in. They didn't try that once. There was no effort to just get a shot on net and have Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is having a beast of a night again, have him just bear down and try and jam that puck in. They owed it to themselves to try and get a goal like that tonight. There just was never an effort there to do that. Everything was looking for seams and one-timers. Just did not work for them tonight because it wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was, to me, that's not a matter. The overpassing, the spacing was off. I didn't like, again, we've talked about this a lot. Scheifele was a little bit too close to the wall. Like, both Connor and Scheifele, they're too close to the back hash marks. you're not dangerous there, right? You don't have to respect the shot as often from there. And the fact they weren't able to get any looks from Dubois in the high slot, right? So,
Yeah.
and they didn't really get anything to Josh at the top either in terms of the shot. So,
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? You go 4 for 6, you think you're moving the puck, snapping it around, it's all good. And then it just got a little bit too static for them today. But let's dig into the overtime stuff here. Dave Lowry's right. The Jets had chances, but I mean, when you lose 10 games in overtime in a shootout, it's a problem. I mean, this happened to the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars missed the playoffs because they were unable to win enough games in extra time last year. This year, the Jets have become that team, and we've talked about this briefly before. I'm confused why they haven't tried three forwards, and I understand part of the reason is because Josh Morrissey's having so much better of a season, so I'm okay with that. But is there not a situation where three forwards might be beneficial to the Jets in extra time, whether it's with their first or second or third rotation?
I just think in a game where you essentially, I think where the Jets lost the game is exactly what I'd said before. The Dallas Stars were able to get odd man rushes down ice.
Right.
And I think there was a couple situations. I mean, there was a situation late in the game when, and I can't remember which player it was. I think it may have been Jamie Benn or Pavelski. It was one of their, no, it was Rope Hintz is who it was. And all of a sudden, somehow Nick Ehlers was back defending him. And I thought, and Rope Hintz kind of, as he was looking up, dumped the puck in. And I think when he dumped it in and looked up and saw who was defending him,
Whoops.
he was like, uh-oh, because Rope Hintz is a big man who has speed and is extremely strong. And if I'm Rope Hintz, nothing against Nick Ehlers, he's got great speed. Maybe he would have beat him to a spot. But if I'm Rope Hintz, I'm trying to skate around Nick Ehlers and throwing my shoulder into him and driving it to the net every single time. And I could feel the panic in the Jets coaching staff when that situation happened, the giant, exhale when Rope Hintz didn't recognize what was happening and dumped the puck in. But I do think that there was a feeling that they needed defense on the ice in that game because you didn't want to get caught down ice with a forward, and because the Dallas Stars were just using that odd man rush to such great effect on the evening that if they had someone back there, they wanted someone who was a little bit better and more capable of playing the 2-on-1 should it end up that way. That's my take on that.
Yeah, no, right on. Let's dive into Ehlers here. I thought he was really good tonight. What'd you see inside the building? It looked like the electricity was back. Obviously, he's being eased in a bit. I think 16 minutes and change. I like where he was used, and I know you touched on it off the top. I agree. I think that the balance that the Jets have been seeking for so long was really there.
It's there.
And what we've talked about all year, Sean, the third line has basically been a revolving door around Adam Lowry, and none of the modes have really worked that well. Suddenly, the Jets look dangerous when they have those 9 forwards together, and then sort of see what happens. And I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the best chances of the game was when Ehlers was still on the ice with Toninato and Vesalainen, and Toninato makes that play for the redirection by Vesalainen, and it's another really good save by Braden Holtby. But again, a great zone entry by Ehlers. He whips the pass across to Toninato, and then Toninato sees Vesalainen streaking, which, again, Sean, we know Vesalainen has offensive ability, even though it hasn't translated. This time he did go to the net, so I mean, good on him for doing it. But I mean, the difference between being a 5-goal guy and a 10-goal guy is going to those areas with a little bit more frequency, and then you bury a few of those chances.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, I love Ehlers there. I know a lot of people, when we tweeted the lines in warm-up today, there's a lot of people who are upset with where Nikolai Ehlers was. I get that. I am a person who believes over the tenure of Paul Maurice's time as the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets that Nick Ehlers did not get as much opportunity as he deserved, and other players who may have been given more opportunity than they deserved. But I like this. Nick Ehlers and Andrew Kopp play well together. Mm-hmm. Adam Lowry has been, in my mind, and boy, oh boy, don't let me go on. I'm just going to take a quick detour on that power play goal that the Jets get. If you take a look at it, it's a 3-way passing play. But That puck is picked up by a Dallas Stars player, and I think there's only like 28 seconds left in that power play. He gets it, goes around the net, has a clear lane outside of the zone to get rid of that puck and dump it down the ice. Adam Lowry catches him from behind, dogs him enough that he can't get the stick on it, turns the puck over, and then not only turns the puck over, but cleanly gets it in a manner that the Jets can capitalize on the Stars who are in the wrong spot, go to their spot, and start the passing play that moves that puck around and catches them out of position. That was one of the most sublime hockey plays I have seen from the Winnipeg Jets this season. It was perfection. That is what hockey is all about. You want to talk about players making other players better on the ice. Like Adam Lowry's name doesn't end up on the score sheet with that, but that is Adam Lowry's goal more than anyone else's goal.
For
absolutely phenomenal.
Won the battle, won the physical battle, right? It was
and never mind the fact that he goes out and gets 2 breakaways again in a game, shorthanded, basically turns the Jets' penalty kills into man advantages or out there or scoring chances for the Jets time and time again. He's been absolutely phenomenal. So putting players with him who can actually put the puck in the net, I love the idea of doing that. You want to talk about rewarding players for their work. Adam Lowry deserves to play with 2 players of that ilk right now. And
he's been great.
They played a nice, simple, direct game. There was a couple times that and this is just beautiful when players do this. I saw that Adam Lowry will break it up ice. He'll move it over to Copp. Copp will start skating in. And what he does is he starts skating in a way that he's threatening, like he's going to dump the puck and roll it around the boards. And so the defenseman that is on Nick Ehlers starts kind of cheating and going down like he's expecting the ring around the board so that he can be the first one to get on it because he knows Nick Ehlers is coming, and he plays a little too far back off Nick Ehlers. And then what happens as soon as Copp recognizes that, he passes it over to Ehlers, who's streaking, he gets it and takes that shot. There was one shot that just nicked Braden Holtby's pad it went wide. That was that close to being a goal. I thought, to create those kind of opportunities that they did tonight, that line was phenomenal. And let's get to your point about the depth here. Like, what is depth supposed to do for you? Well, depth doesn't mean that every single line is working. And boy, oh boy, we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets, it's hard to get multiple lines going. But Pierre-Luc Dubois' line was going tonight. Adam Lowry's line was going tonight. I didn't think Scheifele's line was going for a lot of the game. But the fact that those 2 lines were going bought them time to put an impact on the game with their skill. Right. And I'm talking about a sublime play by Adam Lowry. What a sublime pass by Blake Wheeler. Absolutely creates something out of nothing with that gorgeous pass, and great job by Paul Stastny to beat his man to the net and take that goal, which, very much looked like it was going to end up being the game winner. This is what you need from this team and what has been missing from the Winnipeg Jets. And I'll say this is what was even missing from that Winnipeg Jets team in 2018 when they went to the playoffs, because you could see, and it happened last year against the Montreal Canadiens, it was I don't want to say comical, but it was just so obvious they were like hitting you over the head with it. The Jets, towards the end of the season, if they feel like their backs are against the wall, they just roll that top line of Scheifele and, in the past it's been Connor, Scheifele, and Wheeler. They just roll it out again and again and again and again and again. And I get it. They're your most skilled guys. You want them to have the effect on the game, but you got to send the message to the rest of your team that you believe in them. What do you need, Ken?
No, just tonight, Dubois 25-12, Scheifele 23-15. So he leaned on the Dubois line tonight because that line was going.
He also said, to my question, Dubois and Connor started the 3-on-3 in the overtime, and that's not common. Usually he starts with Wheeler and Scheifele, and he said it. I thought those guys deserved it, and that's Ken. We talked about this when Dave Lowry took over for Paul Maurice. That's what I think a lot of fans are looking for: players being rewarded and given opportunity for what they do out there. Well, I feel like if we're looking at examples of this, Adam Lowry's been provided with opportunity. I thought there were good minutes tonight for Nick Ehlers, and Andrew Kopp, this is only his second game back, or third. Sorry, third game back.
Second game back.
Is only his second game back, and Nick Ehlers, it's only his first game back. So they didn't have, they didn't have as much ice time as those other lines, but they had a lot of ice time for guys and a lot of trust for guys who were just walking back into the lineup. So those guys get their due. And then Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor and Evgeny Svechnikov, we got to get to him, are given all kinds of opportunity for what they're doing. The fact that you are putting out Kyle Connor and Dubois first in overtime, that's a statement. That is a statement that we did not really see in the Paul Maurice era, where your coach is saying, these are the guys who are going tonight. These are the guys who've given us the best opportunity to win tonight. So these are the guys who are going to be given the first opportunity to win this game for us tonight in this situation. It's about time. This is what gets players engaged and pushing forward and feeling like they are a part of the team and pushing forward. I think there's just been too many times in the past with the Winnipeg Jets, players have felt alienated by the player usage decisions, and I think Dave Lowry is winning that battle right now, and I'm interested in seeing what it does to this team going forward.
Oh, I totally agree. And folks, I do apologize. It's more the lighting, but the internet connection and the service in the Maricopa area is suboptimal, let's just say. So we're doing the best we can here just to power through. But no, I agree. I mean, there's a little bit more of a meritocracy happening right now. And today was another great example. I mean, Kyle Connor was 27.53 and Dubois 25 and change. So, yeah, and then so let's transition that into Svechnikov, who,
yes,
great block of games for him, doing the hard things really well. I love what he does along. His board play has improved. He goes to the hard areas, and I mean, it's paying some dividends. I have a quick one for you because you were there this morning. I know we've talked so much about the chemistry between Dubois and Svechnikov, maybe dating back to their time in Cape Breton. Yeah. I thought Kyle Connor brought up an interesting point because they skated. This is not to say they skated on a line together in Michigan, but the familiarity of those two guys, Svechnikov spending the summer in Michigan, Kyle Connor going back home, skating with that group that includes Andrew Kopp, Dylan Larkin, and a bunch of other pros. I wondered what your thoughts were about what you heard from Kyle Connor when it comes to that connection with Yevgeny Svechnikov as well.
Well, again, that's another question that I asked, and I'll tell you right now, the exact reason I asked that question is I believe it's the game-winning goal in Arizona. We talked about that. It's a Pierre-Luc Dubois to Evgeny Svechnikov over to Kyle Connor into the back of the net goal. But that is one of those goals, and I believe I said this after that game, that is one of those goals. Evgeny Svechnikov does the little subtle things that happen in games that sells that play. I talked earlier on about like that goal happens because of Adam Lowry. That game winner in that game happens because of Evgeny Svechnikov, because he gets the puck. And if I remember correctly, he does one of these things, and this is a really, really effective move in hockey. He gets the puck kind of behind him and looks down to his feet. And what I think he's trying to sell the defenseman on is that he's having a hard time with the puck in his feet. And so what that does is it entices the defenseman into trying to close in on you and knock the puck away while you're weak, and B, it confuses the goaltender because the goaltender gets locked in and isn't sure what you're going to do now. If you're driving with that puck and you have purpose, a goalie has a better idea of what you're doing. So the goalie gets sucked into the fact that the puck's in his feet. He's wondering what's going to happen. The defender makes a play for that puck, and as soon as he moves to strike, Evgeny Svechnikov passes the puck over. And if you want to know why Kyle Connor puts that puck in the back of the net, and it's a no-doubter. It's because Evgeny Svechnikov's sell job creates that situation. But the one thing that I noticed when I watched that play over is the defender doesn't know what's going on and the goalie doesn't know what's going on, but Kyle Connor knows exactly what is going on and exactly what Evgeny Svechnikov is doing, and goes right to the spot where he's going to be able to accept that pass and be able to pop that puck into the back of the net. I do think that we can talk all we want about Dubois and the junior hockey kind of connection that he has with Svechnikov and the chemistry that they have. And to be honest with you, I remember at the beginning of the year Maurice talked about it. He said, guys in junior a lot of times that doesn't translate to the NHL. I would operate under the assumption that if guys have shown chemistry with each other before, that you try it expecting chemistry, and if it's not there, it's not there. But you should always try it. The fact that two guys kind of know how each other plays is worth a shot. And so it seemed like Paul Maurice was against giving the shot because his assumption was first and foremost that chemistry doesn't make it to the NHL. And sure, there's examples of that. I think it was Cahoon and Draisaitl in Edmonton that they were played together in Germany and they were expecting good things from them, did not work. So I'm not saying I know more than Paul Maurice. What I am saying is if two guys have shown chemistry before, I think you have to at the very least explore that. So I think there's been this, to your point, there's been this chemistry that we've expected between those two players. They've shown it. But I think that Kyle Connor and Evgeny Svechnikov, it would be interesting, Ken, and I'm not going to knock on wood because I don't want to remove Dubois from the situation because of the ramifications of how that would happen. But it would be interesting to see what would happen. I'm not calling for it. This line should not be broken up. And I'm saying that when Cole Perfetti gets back, this line with Svechnikov should not be broken up. But it would be interesting to see how Kyle Connor and Evgeny Svechnikov would play together with a different center, because I do think that there's independent chemistry between all three of those players. It's like the perfect recipe. I'm going to tell you right now, I've got this great dessert that I call the ooey gooey peanut butter bar, and it's chocolate and it's peanut butter, and I got the ice cream maker.
Delicious.
I make banana ice cream. And it's the holy trifecta. Banana goes with chocolate. Chocolate goes with peanut butter goes with banana. They all stand on their own. They're all good together. That is that line. They are as good as my ooey gooey peanut butter with banana ice cream, because those guys, I think, all have skill. They all work independently with each other. It would be interesting to see, just for the sake of an experiment, what those two would look like with a different center, because I think that the chemistry between them would still exist.
When I put my order in on the ice cream, I'm going to take the chocolate ice cream. I'm not a big fan of the banana, so one thing you know about me is I'm a little bit particular, so I'm not a fan of the banana. But I mean, I'm not. Again, I think it's interesting. Who would that center be? I mean, if it's with Scheifele, you don't have a lot of defense being played with that line. So if it's with Adam Lowry, maybe sure. If it's with Kopp, maybe sure.
I just think like it would just be interesting to see that I'm not asking them to play with anyone else. I'm just saying I think it would be an interesting experiment to see if they had chemistry with the removal of Pierre-Luc.
No, sure, it's totally fair. I just think that I think I would be the opposite, and this is your train earlier on in the year. I just don't think there's any reason at all to break up Dubois and Connor. It's been it's not
agreed.
It's an excellent combination platter.
Please do not think that I am condoning that in any way. This line,
I know what you're saying about the independence.
Yeah.
So you sort of brought up Perfetti. So let's go into a little bit other. Let's go to the injury report here. First and foremost, what happened today with Cole Perfetti and Christian Reichel going on to LTIR? That means they will have to miss a minimum of 10 games and 24 days. When Cole Perfetti comes back, Sean, if you're going to miss a month of action, Cole Perfetti probably needs to go to the American Hockey League before he's ready to be back with the Jets. Don't you think? I mean, that's what I think.
I mean, if Dave Lowry is holding the same position with Cole Perfetti as he would with Dylan Sandberg, that's how he would take this, because he had said about Dylan Sandberg, he was asked about him because Dylan Sandberg had played in a way that he deserved to stick around the lineup, but he comes back and he's down with the Manitoba Moose, and that was the response by Dave Lowry. You can bring a guy up and he could play and he can hop in the lineup here or there, but at some point it starts to hurt a young player. Dylan Sandberg needs to play. He needs to log. He doesn't need to just play in games. He needs to log a lot of ice time to keep his development on track. And I agree with you. I think it's potentially the same thing you'd see with Cole Perfetti.
And again, the second part of the injury trail today is that based on what happened, I mean, you were in the rink. I saw the replay, and it looks pretty obvious to me that Nathan Beaulieu what happened with him and that getting tied up and tangled with Ryan Suter. To me, this did not look like a day-to-day thing for me, especially given how he smashed his stick on the boards on the way out. It took him a long time to get to the bench. Nathan Beaulieu's had some terrible luck with injuries the last 3 seasons. If he's unavailable for an extended period of time, who's getting called up? Is Logan Stanley immediately going in? Is it Ville Heinola? Is it Dylan Samberg? I mean, it's an interesting choice the Jets have coming up.
I would say it's Ville Heinola. That's where my money would be, only because I think Ville Heinola, they would bring him up because, one, they feel they can use him, but two, he hasn't sat the way that Dylan Samberg is. I do think if what Dave Lowry said today is true, they feel like they need to get Dylan Samberg in playing hockey.
Yeah, for some more games.
That's not going to happen if they bring him up.
No, totally fair, but I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of the style of player. On that third pairing, you're looking for a little bit of size, and I'm also very curious to see if maybe Logan Stanley just jumps back in too. I mean, we're waiting to see. I mean, when I asked Dave Lowry about Logan Stanley on Sunday, I mean, he was also asked about him this week at practices, right? I mean, they were just saying he needs a little bit more time to get back going. So, like I said, I'm just curious to see what the next step is there. And again, we don't know if it's long term or not, but to me, I would not expect Nathan Beaulieu back on this homestand, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question was this morning too with Dave Lowry, and that he had said that he had suggested that Big Logan Stanley, he said he'll be getting in, like he will be playing. He didn't want to take him out because of Nathan Beaulieu, and I will say this: I had thought you know my thoughts on Nathan Beaulieu, but he had. I thought Nathan Beaulieu had played the best hockey he'd played as a Winnipeg Jet in the last little while, in the last 3 games. So, I'm big on this. You know me on this. If you put guys in and you ask something from them, they deliver, and they deliver not only what you're asking, but maybe a step above, then I don't think you could take them out of the lineup. This is the way that I think that good teams stay good, and there's competition, and you push, and guys, get the most out of players because those players know that their time and their effort is being respected, right? So I thought Nathan Beaulieu, from how he played the last couple of games, was going to be hard to take out of the lineup, and be replaced by Logan Stanley, because I don't think there had been an opening put in there. But at this stage now, I think Logan Stanley's going to get some time. And then who knows? Maybe if they bring up Ville Heinola, it'll be one of those decisions again, whether it's like, well, we need a little bit more size in the lineup for this game tonight, or we need a little bit more puck moving ability. I mean, those two players are such a contrast that it gives you that opportunity. But I see it going in that direction. There was a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Grant Braun brought this up. It says refs are seldom fired, exception is Tim Peel. I'm thinking more refs need to be sent back to refing school. Just bringing up Tim Peel. What was your take on him attacking Mark Scheifele?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I talked about this with Hustler the other day, or today actually. I don't know. I mean, it's not a great look if a guy's just going into retirement. But I mean, on the flip side, he's trying to provide some insight. I mean, Tim Peel would have some insight on how Mark Scheifele treats officials. So as an official who's reffed a lot of his games over those 10 seasons, so I'm not sure we could be dismissive of it. But what you need, Sean, is you need some other officials to suggest that's also the case, in case there wasn't some kind of a personal beef between the two of them that we're unaware of. So, I mean, Tim Peel's working in the media now. His job is to try and provide insight. And if he believes he has insight on the subject, I mean, you and I know how the business works. You don't prevent someone from sharing. But I mean, it was a pretty direct character attack. So, I wouldn't expect a rebuttal from. I don't think Mark Scheifele is going to get into a rebuttal type of situation because someone suggests something. I mean, my problem isn't the right word, but I mean, what is he congratulating Chris Weidman for tackling him in a non-fight? I mean, that was a strange part of the scenario to me. I mean, if he's saying good job for standing up for a teammate, fine, but I mean, that was the hugging match basically. So it's not like he landed a couple of big right hands and said, "Oh, that's what you get for hitting Jake Evans," even though I wasn't on the team. I mean, Interesting. I mean, but I mean, the other thing, I said this with Hustler earlier, Sean. I mean, we know that Mark Scheifele is not afraid to get into conversations with officials. So
Yeah.
the fact that one official took it as, not respecting officials, I mean, it's not a surprise. But I mean, what's the worst thing Mark Scheifele would say to an official? We know he doesn't swear at them. So I mean, is he attacking him personally? I don't know. I mean, you need more information. And like I said, I mean, you kind of need to hear it from more than one person. Like this is like in journalism, normally you go to a secondary source.
Yeah, you
So,
need more sources, right? The tricky part is finding people who will talk. I mean, you're not going to
of
find refs
course.
now who are in the game who are going to say, maybe someone will say something after. I mean, my take is this. I mean, someone said it here. We know that Mark likes to chirp the refs, and I think I'd seen a take in the media where someone had suggested Mark can't be disrespectful because he doesn't swear. That to me is ridiculous.
Oh, that's
I
not
mean,
true.
you
No,
can
exactly.
that's I don't know. That seems ridiculous to me. But I mean, I do think that I don't think Tim Peel just makes that up. I don't think he just walks out and just absolutely drops it. And there's a lot of people who are kind of character assassins on Tim Peel because of the
Right.
way that he left the game. I mean, let's listen. Tim Peel got caught. And everyone gets that. We know that this exists. We know that refs manage the games. He's just the guy who got caught. He's the fall guy in that. So don't think that Tim Peel is the only ref in the NHL who ever did that. Like that deserves a wake up right there. But I do think
Exactly.
that I mean, it was an interesting situation. I think that makes me want to pivot and transition to. I think it's worth a conversation. I don't think it's behind us because it's going to head into the future. But we had this conversation on Mark Scheifele's response after the fight in the last game. The chat room had convinced me that Mark Scheifele was just kind of laughing it up, and because I don't fight and this is the deal. The Montreal Canadiens clearly didn't take it that way. Like, I wish I had known about this when we were in the show, but Josh Anderson was pissed. Like, Josh Anderson said, "Thank God we play those guys another time." Because they want another crack at Mark Scheifele. And I take a look at that situation. I just think, regardless of how Mark Scheifele was framing that, maybe he was looking at his teammates. The more I watch it, the more I don't think so. The more I watch again is like, and again, my question becomes, what is Mark Scheifele celebrating in that situation? Like, he drops the gloves, he throws a punch, he doesn't land, he falls, and the other guy ends up on top of him. Like, what are you celebrating? Are you celebrating a one fight? Because no one won that fight. And in fact, it wasn't really a fight. The only thing I can think is he's celebrating the fact that the Montreal Canadiens come for retribution and he avoids retribution. That's what it seems like he's celebrating to me. Just didn't think it was necessary in that situation. I know a lot of people don't like the hockey code, and I know a lot of people think the hockey code needs to get out of the game. But like, this is just human nature. If you're upset with someone and you go to like address being upset with them and they avoid your efforts to address that and are like nah 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 and walk away, that's just pouring gas on the fire. And I do think after watching that again that there was gas poured on the fire after that situation. I think Tim Peel's response to that is Tim Peel thinking that in the game he felt disrespected or the refs felt disrespected at times by Mark Scheifele, and what he thought he was seeing was another example of Mark Scheifele being disrespectful to people within the game, and that's why he points it out at that time. I do think that in that situation there was an ability to walk out of that situation, de-escalate everything, and it was simple. He just needed to stand up and look straight ahead and skate to the bench and not do anything. And I do think that what Tim Peel is feeling in that situation as a ref is something that other players, especially players on the Montreal Canadiens, are feeling around the league about Mark Scheifele.
Yeah, I mean, I still this is much ado about nothing to me, Sean. I think it's a non-story, a non-issue, and you know what? And I said this with Huss today earlier, also. You know what? I'm good for Josh Anderson being ticked off about it, but I mean, what's really going to happen? Like, Josh Anderson's going to challenge Mark Scheifele? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think Josh Anderson's pissed off the Montreal Canadiens were in the Stanley Cup final last year, and now they're the second worst team in the NHL. So I think they have much bigger problems than worrying about Mark Scheifele. And what's going to? Mark Scheifele, if he turtles, is that going to hurt his reputation? I mean, Mark Scheifele's not a fighter. I mean, who cares? I don't know. I know we disagree on this, same as we did with Logan Stanley. Again, I thought that was a non-issue also.
Maybe I'd frame it like this, Ken.
This is also a non-issue for me.
Maybe I'd frame it like this. I think, Ken, and you can agree or disagree with me. I think the Winnipeg Jets and their players, or certain players, are starting to be thought of as villains outside of this market. Now, I don't know if that's maybe that's something you want, right? Like the big bad Bruins loved being the villains, right? The Philadelphia Flyers loved being villains. They earned those reputations in a bit of a different way by being bullies and being tough and beating the snot out of the guys, not being the guys who kind of avoided those situations, which I think is what Logan Stanley was celebrating, and I think what Mark Scheifele was celebrating. And I don't know the answer to this question. Maybe it's good to be viewed as villains outside of this market. But I mean, the question that has to be asked, I wonder, I'm not chastising here. I hope it doesn't sound like this. I'm asking Jets fans, is that a look you want? Maybe it is. Sometimes it's better to be thought of than to not be thought of at all. But I just do wonder what people's thoughts are on the Jets being thought of as villains outside of this market. If the league starts getting to a place where they look at the Winnipeg Jets and think of them in negative connotations.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Sean, again, Scheifele he did not say he won the fight. He did not say he avenged himself for what happened with Jake Evans. He did not say...
What's he celebrating then, Ken?
I don't care. We talked about this the other day. It's nothing. He's celebrating the fact there have been no fans or half capacity. Who cares? They got to win on a Tuesday night. Get the crowd into it. Big deal. I honestly don't find this to be a big deal at all. I understand other people are fired up about it, and I'm not dismissing their viewpoint. It just, to me, this doesn't even move the needle at all. Mark Scheifele's not going to have to fight 10 times the next 10 times they play Montreal. It's a non-story for me. So, again, and I also have no problem with people being upset with it or not liking it. But, I mean, I would much rather have someone show some emotion, even if it's misplaced. But to me, I mean, just the fact that hockey's weird. I mean, and we've all been on teams where guys who don't fight. Guys get pumped up about that, right? Even if it's not even a wrestling match, Sean, right? I mean, to me, that's all this is. I mean, I think it was more mockery than anything. I mean, it was more... And the same thing with Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley doesn't think that he dusted Wayne Simmons. It was barely even a fight, right? So
that's what I'm saying. So again, why is he
that's what I'm saying. But again,
General Imlereth is one of our guys here from Calgary. I'd be interested on his take outside of this market on how he views the Winnipeg Jets if this is...
he's not pretending to be a fighter. Mark is not going to get into another fight this season.
No.
He's had 2 in his career.
I wanted to bring this up, and
nor should he be fighting. This is a goal scorer.
Agreed.
He does not need to risk, especially guys who don't fight. You know what happens when guys who don't fight...
But then, Ken, if that's what you're saying, which is why he shouldn't be risking enraging another team afterwards. Okay, you're right. Mark Scheifele should not be fighting. So the fact that you've got Josh Anderson in the media talking about, thank God we play these guys one more time so we can get another crack at them in this situation, isn't that a bad thing? If you don't want Mark Scheifele fighting, do you want Mark Scheifele pissing the other team off to the point that they want to go after him?
It's an overreaction for me. That's all.
From Josh Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with what he said. In fact, I encourage it. I encourage him to say how he feels, and if that's how he feels, right on. But if he thinks that Mark is going to go to center ice and they flip their lids like they used to in the 80s and risk falling on his head, who cares? If Josh Anderson wants to chase Mark Scheifele around and try to hit him with a clean check, by all means. But who cares? I mean, Mark Scheifele should not be getting into a fight. He should not be risking breaking his hand or falling on the ice or any of those things. If someone else wants to challenge him, that's their issue. But to me, it's a non-story, and that's a good buff right there from North End Rick. Reference. And again, like I said, I mean, we like when people are fired up about things, but much like we talked about before, Sean, at the end of this month, I mean, would it be great if there's 5 fights in the Toronto game? Sure, that's old-time hockey. Hopefully no one gets hurt, but when those games usually come around, when you play an opponent twice a year, they're usually not what we expect them to be.
I don't
They
think
can
it's
be
going to
in, they
be
can they can be intense games, but I don't think for 1 second that there are going to be 20 Canadians chasing Mark Scheifele around and trying to get him to fight and try to hurt him. I mean, I just
yeah.
don't see that happen. That's just
I
not the
don't
way
think
the
it's
game is anymore,
I don't think it's
and
yeah.
nor should it be.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to bring this up just quickly. Rob Mahoney said this, and I know some people were talking about this in the chat room. I'm pretty surprised the Wiesek grenade didn't gain more traction. This to me was, and I've got all the respect in the world for Wiesek, but this to me was like ultimate hyperbole. Like, I don't think you can hey, listen, Paul Wiesek had said he covered crime for 10 years, and some of the worst people he's met are in the Winnipeg Jets locker room. I, too, used to work news. I covered crime for a lot of years. And the people who, to suggest for a second that he's met worse people in the Jets locker room than like rapists and murderers and, like some of the people who, I've got a lot of buddies who work as prison guards. I mean, to me, that's hyperbole. Like that is a statement that can't be taken seriously in that situation. Again, I've got all the respect in the world for Paul Wiesek, but to suggest that the worst people he's met after covering crime for 10 decades are in the Winnipeg Jets, that can't be a proper statement. That can't be a true statement. It just, so to me, that's why that's not gaining as much traction, is because it's obvious hyperbole to me. Anyway, Ken, do you want to touch on that or no?
Not
No.
really.
Okay. All right. We're done. We're done then. We're done. We're going to be doing this Sunday all over again. It's going to be a big one. The Jets have given up half of a loss that they can allow for this week. If they win on Sunday, they come out ahead of time. They buy themselves a little bit of goodwill for themselves going forward. But boy, that's going to be a tough one against a Rangers team that just has been firing all year and has been firing as of late. If you take a look at all of these kind of teams, like I joked about it on Twitter earlier on, the Jets look to have broken the Minnesota Wild, who've gone 2-6 since they lost that 6-3 game to them. The one thing that I found interesting about this Rangers team is while they are still sitting third in the Metropolitan Division, I can't really look at any stretches of the season, Ken, where they've like fallen apart and played bad hockey for a stretch of time. Like it just seems like they're one of these teams. They're like the Jets in that the Jets, for the most part this year, seem to be in games. They just always end up on the wrong side of them. It's like they're like the Bizarro Superman to the Winnipeg Jets in that they're always in these games and usually end up on the right side of them. But the ones that they lose, they're giving themselves a chance in as well. So that's a tough team. I would fully expect that game is going to be a grind one way or another. If the Jets win it, it's not going to be easy. They're going to have to come with an effort like I thought I saw from them tonight, just without some of the mistake prone.
Yeah, and Shesterkin's been so great, right? I mean, he's Jeff Merrick's preseason choice for the Vezina, and he's going to be getting MVP votes, not just Vezina votes this year. So
this is a good point as well. That's what's coming into town here. So before we let you go, just wanted to keep you all apprised of what we've got going in here. We've had the t-shirts out. Let's bring it up here. So if you want to go get any Kenny and Renny merchandise, www.shopsportsnet.store, where we've got a whole bunch of stuff there at a really good price point. We do really appreciate the efforts that people have put in so far in buying stuff. Got the mugs here that we absolutely love, the water bottles, everything. We're going to keep trying to push it down the road and bring more and more to you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you stopping by here. If you're watching and you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, why don't you go ahead and do that, because we're here after every game and we love having people in the conversations with you. And click like while you're there as well. Helps get our videos out to everyone. We've been really happy with our numbers as of late, and as always, we're happy with the chat room that just drives this show night in and night out. You're the heartbeat and the engine of it. We appreciate you for that. We'll see you all again on Sunday.